Had a lot of respect for Mohan Nadkarni as a music critic, as someone who took an active interest in my musical career, and over the years as a friend and a person that we could share our common love of Indian music, its history, its masters, its mechanics, and he was just a fantastic person in so many ways. He was a figure known to many thousands of musicians and music appreciators, mostly through his writings, through the reviews, thousands of reviews that were published in all kinds of newspapers and magazines in India. I guess not so many people got to know the man, the very simple man, the very warm and loving man that he was. I met Mohan Nadkarni in the late or the mid 80s when I started to come to India regularly for giving concerts. I remember going to a concert once with a friend in Bombay, and he said, "Oh, Ken, there's Mohan Nadkarni's in the audience. He is one of the greatest music critics in India. You can be both happy and fearful if he comes to your concert, because this man is fiercely independent. He will never give just light praise. He will always say the truth from his perspective, and hasn't been afraid of any of the maestros that he's reviewed for so many years throughout their careers. The maestros like Pandit Ravi Shankar and Ustad Ali Akbar Khan and Vilayat Khan, and some of the greatest, Bhimsen Joshi also, and some of the greatest musicians that Indian classical music has known in the 20th century. He said, so if he reviews one of your concerts, you'll be lucky, and it may not be pretty, but he'll be very honest, and he'll certainly raise the points that he likes, and he won't be afraid to raise the points that he doesn't like about your performance." So that was my first glimpse of Mohan Nadkarni, the famed critic.
It's a matter of happiness for everyone who's known Mohan Uncle to know that all his writings are being launched as a web resource online on October 3rd, which is his 92nd birthday. My association with Mohan Uncle dates back to more than 30 years. I remember I was playing in Bombay for the first time, and I was going to perform a solo, and he had come to listen to me there. And unfortunately, as I was new, there were only about 20 or 25 people in the audience in an auditorium which could seat 1,000 people. I was very disheartened and really, really upset with it. So he came backstage, and all he told me was, "You play your best. You don't know among these 20 people who they are, who could help you in your career, who could take you places in your career. So you always give your 100% and don't worry about who's there in the audience. So you just play with all your heart, and the rest, everything will follow." And that is one advice of his which has stuck to my head, and till date I have always followed that. And I would say whatever I am today, a big part of it is because of him. He also he really liked my music because he's very forthright in what he thought about everybody's music, and he would pen the truth in paper. So as far as I was concerned, I think I'm really blessed that he did like my music, and he was always supportive, so much so that after I finished that concert, my first album release happened due to him. I recorded for CBS India as their first artist, and therefore it's a lot of happiness to me that his works are going to be there in the web for a lot of people to see it and understand what a great musicologist and writer he was.
And I think it was on a subsequent trip the following year. So he was completely honest in his writings and his evaluation of a performer, whether it was Ali Akbar Khan or unknown performers. He didn't care. He was in no fear of the famous and musicians. He just listened to what his ears told him, and gave an honest review. And I think this is one of his greatest assets. He could not be bought. People could not, beg for a good review to launch their career. He had his standards, and he kept to them. And there were many stories that brought this out. One of the things that always impressed me about Mohan Nadkarni was that he was very open to any kind of artist playing Indian classical music, and very open to some of us Westerners who then started coming to India and not only showing love and appreciation for Indian classical music, but showing that we had studied with great masters and were starting to become performers in our own rights. He welcomed these efforts, and he supported them completely. He wrote about this phenomena of Indian music and the West, and he gave a lot of support to the efforts that Westerners are making to learn and master Indian music. He even came to Europe on one occasion and visited the centers of Indian music in Europe, including Basel, where I've been for many years. One time we were speaking about this whole issue of who does Indian music belong to? Does it belong to Hindus? Is it Hindustani music? What about Muslims playing Indian music? Sikhs? India is a multicultural country, so already within India there were many different kinds of people playing Indian music, and then there were Westerners coming and playing Indian music. And he said, Ken, I don't consider it anything more than this. He said, if you're a real connoisseur of Indian music, you listen to the music with your eyes closed and your ears open. That's all it takes. So what color, what ethnicity that performer is becomes completely irrelevant. And of course, that was music to my ears.
He had first heard me sing when I sang at Swami Haridas Sangeet Sammelan at Mumbai Devi in 1957. He heard me next almost 13 years later when I sang for Kalke Kalakar Sammelan again in Bombay. After the concert, he came up to me and he said, "Aren't you the same Lalith Dhareshwar who sang at Mumbai Devi all those many years ago?" What a memory! Immediately that I was cast and he had taken me under his wing. I always wondered how, in spite of having such an important and demanding job with the Maharashtra government, he managed to spend so much time to attend music concerts, write reviews, write books on music, and meet musicians. An extremely erudite musicologist, a fearless and frank critic, he wrote with conviction and authority, and a deep sense of commitment to the preservation and propagation of Hindustani classical music that he was so passionately fond of. With an incredible command over the English language, a fine sense of humor, and twinkling eyes, he was a formidable yet deeply respected figure in the musical milieu of Bombay. He was always the first to shower praise after a good recital, and yet never hesitated to point out the defects and shortcomings and suggest how one could improve. I'm grateful that he played a big part as a mentor to me and guided and advised me in shaping my musical career. He and Surochan Pachi showered a lot of love and affection on Jayavant and me, and their memories are evergreen. I'm so happy to hear that a compilation of his prolific writings is being planned to be published this year. What a befitting tribute to a wonderful sadhaka.
As for you, Dev, your project to digitize this whole archive of your father's work is a wonderful thing, and I believe it'll be very important for the Indian music world. Not only will it represent perhaps the only time in history that the writings of one person have been presented in this way, specifically about the classical music of North India, but also these writings capture what many people think of as the heyday of the performance of North Indian music. Great maestros from Ali Akbar Khan to Ravi Shankar to Bhimsen Joshi to Vilayat Khan, they were all chronicled in the writings of Mohan Nadkarni. And this was, it's a precious archive, and I think will be appreciated not only by music lovers, but also by historians, musicologists, and will last from now through the ages as an important document in the collected history of Indian music materials.